Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use that promo code DNVR25 if you're a second time. DNVR20 if you're the first time. You get your 20 or 25% off that CBD infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Kreisman. I am the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. I can say my name most of the time. Joining us, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And on this one, though, the Colorado Rockies did storm from behind after they were down 7-0 to win 10-7 in a meaningless spring training game where half the people who pitched are, especially if you're counting both teams, not people anyone could actually name. Some nice stuff out of the bullpen. Young hitters did some fun things, but that's not what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be diving deep into the stories of spring training. There's nothing like spring training, Patrick. Hope springs eternal. It brings with it a whole new set of questions and narratives that arrive. It's a lot like the first episode of a new television show, right? That you're going to watch, and you don't know where that show is going to go, if you're going to love these characters or hate them. You're kind of finding all this stuff out together. I love it. I love episodes of new TV shows, the whole thing. It brings an energy that's unlike anything else in sports.
And with that, when you get to that first episode, there's a whole life that these characters have led and they've alluded to, and we just don't know it yet. We're finding out those things from those characters. And that's kind of like spring training where, hey, guys in November, December, January, they're off doing some interesting things, changing their look, changing their personality, trying to grind towards a milestone. And all of those tales come together as we get excited for the 2021 season.
Yeah. And so if you're wondering, what is exactly you're talking about? This stuff runs the gamut, everything from the funny and interesting. You mentioned, times where like the John Gray showed up with a totally different haircut, and we're all going, hey, what's going on there? We're talking about last year where the story of Antonio Senzatella was both intriguing and kind of funny, where it's like he's lost all this weight. He's totally reformed his body. He's this new man. He stopped eating candy was a big part of it. So we've got like, that's an ongoing narrative, right? That's a fun thing we're talking about. Even things that those of us that are old enough to remember, times where your team has changed venues, and what does that mean? And RIP to High Corbett Field. So there's all kinds of fun stuff that comes there. There's great stuff out there, Patrick. Baseball, if nothing else, it's a game of characters and stories, and it's what we do here. So let's get into the business of. I'm gonna toast my Breck Brew early. Since we're doing it early, I'm having an old school RK special going each one. And even with Allie producing today, it's hilarious because I've gotten in the habit of putting them both into a glass because her and RK implored me to do so. But today she's on and I can't. I got to go old school. So.
You just got to go old school. I respect it. You got the two beers. They're beautiful. I respect it.
It's OG. And get Celsius. If Celsius are your thing, you can get your Breck Brew in 15-can samplers either down at King Soopers or at your local liquor store. Brews or Celsius down at the DNVR bar, wherever you're getting damn good beer, you're doing well. Patrick, let's toast to the wonderfulness of baseball.
Let's toast to Dallas Dupree Young, a name we might need to know at some point.
The Young is almost excessive when you've already got a name that cool.
And he is young, lowercase y and uppercase Y, as the son of Eric Young Sr. Eric Young Sr., his son got a big acting break in the past year during the off season, and is featured in a couple movies, a baseball movie that's coming out there. Might be a straight to streaming release. I wanted to say straight to DVD or straight to VHS, but
that's not going to be a thing anymore, is it?
No, but it's a baseball movie, so it's worth watching. No two ways about it. So his son kind of got his acting chops there. You like seeing that for the Rockies. Great. We learned about Greg Bird, who's going to be battling for first base with the Rockies. Great story came out that the Grandview High first baseman, he hit an inside the park home run at Coors Field.
Yeah.
Outfielder dove for the ball, just missed it. came all the way around for the inside the Parker, and his teammate and now NL West rival Kevin Gausman was there telling him, get down, as he slid into home plate and hit the only inside the park home run of his career at Coors Field in high school. This has so much potential for even more fun this entire year.
Relive the moment. Anytime he hits a ball in the gap, you and I are going to be like looking at each other like, go. Especially if somebody dives and misses one. Then you got to like, what are the chances? They're not high, by the way.
When it comes to spring training, a couple of the new faces, like you said, Drew, some we might know, some we should, maybe not. But two Colorado boys, Max George, who converted to catcher. He was there early on right away from Regis Jesuit, and Lucas Gilbreth, who actually pitched in today's game, a graduate of Broomfield's Legacy High. So two more Colorado Rays players in camp at Salt River Field. I mean, we're up to like 4 now. That's right. Pretty good.
Fun fact, I've done a very little bit of baseball coaching in my life of little league, helping out. I've never like managed. No one would put me in charge of their children in case anyone was like, what?
You were the bench coach and in charge of the orange slices.
That's right.
Dual role.
That's right. But one of the few leagues that I did do 13 and under one year was the Legacy League out here in the Boulder Broomfield area. So I have a little bit of a connection, and a lot of those guys do. A lot of the Colorado people are from that Legacy tradition. So it's just one of those little things. Fun fact.
This is a much better area for baseball, I think, than people, probably realize.
It really is.
Again, it's a smaller community, so that's why there hasn't been as many players who have broken through on the major league level, but still really quality. And the other, interesting story in Rockies camp, we actually learned that Josh Fuentes, he has a cousin, and he is now a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. How about that? That's kind of cool.
That's interesting. Fun. I wonder if that guy's any good. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
check the scouting reports and we'll find out.
Looking forward to talking with Fuentes and hearing more about this cousin of his. I mean, what do you know? Baseball runs into Josh Fuentes' family.
Absolutely fantastic. Baseball it's a family game. Those Molina brothers, everyone who shows,
Flying Molina brothers. Well, Josh Fuentes he's got an image. He's working on his brand here in Colorado. But one of the most interesting, and maybe it's funny story, I don't know, is Aaron Judge. You hear about this guy, Aaron Judge? You hear what he did this offseason, Drew?
Sounds familiar. Familiar with this guy.
I think we know what he looks like. He hasn't been on the market, for too long. He has only been around for about 4 seasons. Burst onto the scene pretty quickly.
The way you said on the market, I wasn't sure if you were like looking for a date. Like,
no, not me, but I'm sure there's plenty of ladies out there, and maybe even more ladies are going to be interested because Aaron Judge, that image you have in your head of what Aaron Judge looks like, guess what? It changed this offseason because he fixed his teeth. He had that gap. He had that almost Michael Strahan-esque gap, and he kind of went the Pete Davidson route, and he got himself in a big, beautiful mouth of chompers, and looks good. But I felt like that was part of his brand. That gap.
I'm with you. What was okay, we're really going to date ourselves. Allie's going to have no idea who this person is.
Madonna.
Jennifer Grey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember her?
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing. That's right. And she had this distinct nose, and it maybe wasn't the traditionally cutesy one that people liked or whatever, and she got a nose job. And
I know who Jennifer Grey is.
Okay,
I'm not Michaela. Come on now.
I forget that unlike Kale and Michaela, Allie knows history.
I'm also older than them by like 3 or 4 years, so come on.
That's usually when you learn about Jennifer Grey, is like when you're 26, 27, so that makes sense. And I like that Drew considers Jennifer Grey's nose job from Dirty Dancing as history. She knows her history.
That really important American history that you should know. I like him better with the gap teeth.
Yeah, me too in a way. But we're gonna get used to it, and it's gonna be one of those things in 5 years from now where you go, he's got his teeth worked on, he's got a completely different mouth. There will be people that don't know that. What? No, what do you mean? Like how what do you got? Braces? Those are veneers. I don't know. We have to call the people over at Green Mountain Dental to find out exactly what kind of work he got done there. Veneers, maybe?
And yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask him. Also, I'm getting it done the second I have the chance to. So I shouldn't talk trash. Be like, keep your messed up teeth. When I'm like, I would fix my messed up teeth.
Well, if we're talking about looking good, no one has looked better. Well, there's two people that have looked great. One of them is Francisco Lindor. He's got the blue hair.
10 out of 10.
But he also showed up to spring training, and talk about being current. He showed up wearing the Eddie Murphy Coming to America New York Mets jacket. Look at this thing.
12 out of 10. 12 out of 10. All the marks. I love this so much. It's like you only lose some like retro cool points because Coming to America there's a sequel coming out and people are familiar with this now, because this would have been a deeper cut like a year ago, but him changing teams and he's pulling it off and he's rocking it so well. Yeah,
Michaela doesn't know. Michaela did not know who Jennifer Grey was.
We invited her on. She was unfortunately not able to make it. I would have loved to have gotten her thoughts on Arsenio Hall. Do you know who she is, Michaela? Do you know who she is? Arsenio Hall.
Just help this.
I'm trolling her now. Now I'm just trolling. Yeah, he looked great. And he came in saying, "Good morning, my neighbors."
Fantastic. Oh,
he looks absolutely
Francisco
fantastic.
Lindor is a top 5 personality in baseball. And people don't know it. And that's somebody's fault, and it's not Francisco Lindor's.
Confirmed. She does not know who Arsenio Hall is. Woof. Okay, moving on. Bryce Harper looked good showing up to spring training as well. And
I know Michaela knows who Bryce Harper is.
Oh,
I'm always
Bryce Harper.
I haven't even seen this particular one yet, but I'm a fan of all Bryce Harper looks so far. His hair combination, typically in the 9 to 10 out of 10 range.
And we've got the perfect producer. So Allie, when you pull up this photo of Bryce Harper, I want your take, or what was your initial thought on Bryce Harper, and how much do you love every single part of his outfit?
I don't know.
Okay, so this is your first time seeing it very clearly.
Yes.
All right, notice the bat. What are you noticing about this baseball bat? How great is it?
Oh, of course. I mean, it has the Fanatic, it has the Phillies. All of that stuff is great.
That's great. Now, can you? You might not be able to see his knit cap, but it does say John.
You gotta.
That's great. Which I only learned about that recently.
Does everyone know the spelling of John, the correct spelling?
I don't even know what John is. I'm going to play a Michaela card here and say I don't know what that is.
Drew, I only learned about this like recently, and I'm from that area. I don't know. I never heard of this.
John is like anything. So it's like, pass me that John. Or are you going to that John? Like, oh, like, I don't like that John. Like, it just, you use it for everything.
Crack open a can of John, man.
Yeah, like, oh, pass me that. Like, literally, you just use it for every word. Fun story about Bryce Harper. I actually had a picture of him I took a picture with him and had a picture on my Instagram. And my brother's high school thought that I dated Bryce Harper for some time period. And that was a rumor that went around the school. I was like, oh, no, I just went to an event where he was at. But okay.
One picture, but sure.
RK Harper. All right. And then the final piece, this was my favorite part. Again, didn't know John as much. I would love to have a Philly Fanatic designed baseball bat, but his T-shirt to commemorate the home of Philly spring training, Clearwater, Florida, says Clearwater. And if you're from that area,
you know really how to say Wooder?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I want that so bad. I want that shirt that says Clearwater, because that's how you pronounce the stuff that's in the ocean. Water.
No, it's actually not. I disagree with you wholeheartedly.
What do you call H2O?
Water. The correct way.
You slip into it though, don't you? Water once in a while.
If I'm in Philly, I will definitely start having more of a Philly. For people who don't know, I grew up in Philadelphia, lived there, big Philly sports fan in general. But yes, I kind of occasionally will get back to that Philly accent.
Talking about Rita's Wooder Ice.
Here's the picture.
There it is.
Football games the most, yeah.
Bryce Harper and his ex. Let's get
Literally,
that
my
going.
brother called me and was like, "Everyone thinks you dated him. Why?" I'm like,
"You guys do kind of look like you're at the prom together."
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You know, I just casually brought Bryce Harper to prom. No big deal.
That is really good.
And again, his hair on point. You look good too, Allie. But
Well, thank
Bryce
you.
Harper is
Bryce
just a
Harper is Bryce
knockout.
Harper. I understand.
Who's prettier than Bryce Harper? Let's
Right.
put our chips on the table.
Right.
You can only hope to be as pretty
Put my money.
as
Let the
Bryce
first
Harper.
prettier person than Bryce Harper throw the first. Yeah.
All right, Drew.
Right.
We talked just on Monday. Go back and listen to that episode. Essentially, the short history of numbers for the Colorado Rockies. Players, what they have worn, what's been retired, what's been taken out of use, the history of the number 69 in Major League Baseball. If you didn't listen to that,
Yes,
you learn what team back in 1990 was the first team to have a player wear the number 69, and how many teams have actually worn it of the 30 teams. Rockies have not, but go back and listen to how many have. All right, so Taiwan Walker, he wore number 44 in Seattle. He was traded in Arizona. And, of course, that was worn by Paul Goldschmidt. So you know he's getting a new number. Goldschmidt is 44.
Taiwan Walker didn't get that over Goldie. They didn't.
Surprisingly, no.
Weird.
So he wears 99 in Arizona.
Love it.
Badass.
We talked a little bit about 99 on that show, too. Love it.
Love it. Gets traded to Toronto. Hyunjin Ryu's already got it.
Now, what were the odds? Oh, no, we'll need a real. Where's Nathaniel? Nathaniel Sunshine.
That's
in baseball history. How many times has somebody worn the number 99
and the team's most expensive or most valuable player already has it?
Yeah.
Well, Drew, it happened again.
No.
It happened again. So he couldn't wear 99 in Toronto. He had to wear 00, right? He had to wear 00. And
Taiwan Walker's my number hero.
he could have worn 0, but Marcus Stroman already had it. He can't wear 0, and he can't wear 00 either. You know why? What? It was also taken. It was taken by Mr. Met. Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Mr. Met wore 00. So now, granted, Taiwan Walker decided, you know what? I could wear that number, but he did not want to take it from Mr. Met. So he's out, and he needs to find a new number. I don't actually even care what he settled on that now, because he's picked something else. But couldn't wear 00. Mr. Met's already got it.
I am beside myself. I'm going to start an internet campaign to get Taiwan Walker the correct weird number. It breaks my heart that this man, all he wants to do is wear 0 or 99, and they won't let him. No. And those are the coolest, most badass number choices a guy can have. And then he can't even have 00.
He could have worn that on the Rockies.
Get out of here.
All of those are taken. All of those are open.
They should give Mr. Met the infinity sign, on the back.
Could be.
You should just have a.
He could be 62. 62 would have been perfect.
All the mascots have numbers, and I've just never thought about this until this moment. What's Dinger's number? Dinger he wears a jersey, right? He's got a number.
If he did have a number, it should be 93. It should be the year that the Rockies.
That's right.
In. Yeah, so the Mets could have been 62. I mean, Mr. Met could be 62.
Dinger's number is also 0. I'm pulling up a picture right now.
Oh,
00?
00.
Well,
Yes.
I was gonna say because Ottavino wore. So do all the mascots? I've just never noticed this before. Will knew.
And now that's a hot number. That's a hot number. So
what happens if a real I shouldn't say that. Taiwan Walker's a pretty solid player, but what would happen if like Nolan Arenado, that was his number, and he just got traded to the Cardinals and their mascot wore 00? Surely they'd reprint all that. But I would imagine that the mascot merchandising actually makes that way more difficult.
If the Rockies sign like a professional wrestler named Onyx Omega, and he's like, hey, I'm 00, I want to wear the 00. I mean, hey, Tim Tebow got to play baseball, so you never know. But I think Dinger would have to change his number. He'd probably have to go to 93.
Yeah.
Oh, great question.
Brandon, that's why this is breaking my heart. So, if I could wear any number in MLB, so my number growing up was always 12. So that was my number. That's just, I'd wear 12. But I probably wouldn't be that good, and someone else would probably have 12. My go-tos after that would be things like 000, 99, or 88. We talked about 88 on the number.
Your spring training number. You're going to be an 88.
But that's the thing. In baseball, you don't wear 88 on purpose. People are going to look at you like, kid. Put on a real major league uniform number. Don't.
I've always been 21's always been my number, but I don't know that I've got a large enough back for 21 to really look that great. So you know what? If I get to pick my number, I'm gonna go 7. I think 7 just looks would look cutting across my back, and I would take that one. I'd take 7 as my number.
That's good. I do love this comment from Will that if a Rockies player wants to wear 00, he has to win it in the tooth trot.
Yes. All right, a couple more quick little funny ones. Zach Hess, client of Rachel Luba, who's the agent of Mr. Trevor Bauer. Who's
kicking all the ass of all the misogynists on Twitter, by the way. So bring it at her, and she will absolutely own your ass.
She's great. Well, she's doing a good job in the PR department for Zach Hess. They've made a wager. If he can throw 100 miles an hour, I think she's going to get a tattoo. If he can't, he ends up having to get a tattoo. So to him, it's going to be a win-win situation.
This is great stuff. These kind of little bets go on at spring training all the time. And there are rules about reporting specifics and talking about, gambling can be very tricky. And it's gotten, as we know, with our friends at Draftkings and all of that it's gotten a lot lighter over the last couple of years. And there's kind of more organization to it now. But yeah, it's because I can't tell any specific stories because still, given the circumstances, I don't want to out anybody, but I've heard of things like this before between agents and players or players and players. If you do this during spring training, once the season starts, they're not messing around with this kind of stuff. But hey, man, if you can do X, Y, or Z, something like that, throw a hundo, I'll donate $1,000 to a charity. It's usually stuff like that. So I love it.
Now, would you make a bet that if you were at spring training with your number 88, your spring training number 2, would you, for the entire duration of spring training, which for pitchers is 6 weeks, sometimes 7,
right?
Would you live in an RV? Because that's what Hunter Strickland is doing right now with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, that's my jam. Yeah, I'll make that happen.
That's tough. You're going to save a lot of money. We know that with rent.
So yeah, first of all, you're being frugal there. You're feeling in a pretty good spot. Second of all, you're cutting out all that extra noise, right? You don't need any of that extra stuff. You stay in a zone when you're in a small, isolated place like this. You and I have actually talked before about tiny homes, just between us off the air, having general interest in that. I think there's something zen to, especially if you're by yourself. If I'm with my family, I don't want to be in an RV or whatever. But if I'm at spring training, I've got a month to get my mind and my body focused on the thing I've got to do. Put me in that RV. Let me awake and go to bed every morning and night in that isolated, centered place. I love that. I would, yeah.
And for anyone that played organized sports, especially for high school, when you would travel to games, away games, and if mom, dad, aunt, uncle, whoever comes by and they say, hey, you don't have to ride the bus, I'll drive you home. You're stopping at Mickey D's or something like that. That's great. So he can just drive himself to wherever the team is playing that day, drive himself home. That's not so bad.
It's not so bad. And since we were talking about betting just a moment ago, we should go ahead and mention that now is the perfect time to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Even though the promo they got going on right now is about UFC, if you don't know anything about MMA or fighting or any of that, it's okay. I promise you, this is the equivalent of if you didn't know anything about basketball when they were offering the deal for anybody to hit a three-pointer, you didn't know anything about football when they were offering the deal for anybody to score a touchdown. Right now, at DraftKings Sportsbook, for new users, if you download that top-rated app, they will hook you up with the opportunity to bet $1. So, if you lose this incredibly unlikely to lose bet, you're out $1, which you probably lost in your couch cushions this week. If you win the bet, which is that one of the fighters in the main event lands a punch. I didn't misspeak. You didn't hear that wrong. They hit somebody with their fists. Typically a big goal of the fighty tones. I'm not the biggest expert in fighties. Patrick and I do a little more fake fighties than real fighties. but they tend to hit each other. So if anybody lands a punch in the main event, you turn $1 into $100. And DraftKings is always hooking you up with super dope promos. Sometimes it just equates to them throwing you free money to bet on whatever you want. And it only takes a couple of wins. You know, it's I know a lot of people talk about like the odds are against you, but you win 2 out of 10 times. You typically, 1, make your money back, and 2, it makes the fun that much worth it. So it really does make sports that much more fun when you've got a little bit of skin in the game. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now for your chance to turn $1 into $100 if either main event fighter lands a punch on Saturday. Place your bet and watch the fists fly this weekend. Or you don't even have to watch them fly, though I do recommend it if you're into it. Bet $1, you can turn it into $100 using that promo code DNVR. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
A lot of good fights on that card, especially the undercard. But you know what? If you're not happy enough with making that kind of money, I got a way you can make even more. My DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week is Israel Adesanya minus 230. So you're not going to make too much scratch, but it's a lock. The UFC middleweight champion is a sure thing to do. In fact, talking about punches, 2 of his last 3 fights, he's won on a knockout or technical knockout with punches. He's 20-0, and he's not going down anytime soon. He's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world right now. So Israel Adesanya is my DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week at minus 230.
Lock it in. Lock it in. You've been on a decent heater, right? Like not
called that Real Madrid win last week.
You got that straight Real Madrid win, yeah.
In the Champions League.
I'm saying. And our guy Nathaniel was around to let us know about, where was it? Only 21 players in MLB history have worn 99, and only 20 players have worn 00 in the history of the 150-year history of baseball. So the fact that Taiwan Walker has been blocked from wearing both of those numbers, we need a math genius to figure out what the odds of that are.
I tell you what the odds are pretty good of. Buster Posey's offspring turning pro. Any of these big time guys, you know what? They're gonna have a golden ticket. And
go to DraftKings Sportsbook plus 2,000 for Buster Posey's kid to go pro right now.
Buster Jr. BJ Posey, maybe? I don't know. He said he kept in shape. We're talking about funny spring stories by throwing fully loaded diapers at his son, his 9-year-old son, Lee. Because he and his wife had adopted twin girls during the off season. And so he said, you got to make sure you get the right weight of the diapers. So depending on how they've been feeding, that plays a lot into the accuracy. So that's how a all-time great catcher keeps himself in shape during the off season.
Well, I suppose if I'm not an all-time great catcher, I can't doubt the process, right? I can't call into question the preparation and method if I haven't lived a day in his very poopy shoes, apparently.
Speaking of young players, Nick York is a name you would have recognized last June, when we went through and did an entire couple days of MLB draft coverage. He was the surprise shock where he wasn't on our top 100 board. Red Sox kind of reached up and grabbed him out of high school at the 17th overall pick. Well, believe it or not, he's actually invited to camp for Boston. We haven't seen that so far in camp with the Rockies. They've kind of kept some of their younger guys away, and they're going with their more MLB-ready players. But Nick York is only 18 years old, and he's in spring training camp. And this limited spring training camp, he's the youngest by 2 years. Manager Alex Cora has a daughter the same age, to put that in perspective. And Alex Cora is not very young either, or rather not very old to begin with. And so if I haven't made it clear enough, he was in high school a year ago at this time. And now he's at spring training camp alongside, the greatest baseball players right now in the game in Boston, learning from Alex Cora, a bunch of guys that have a World Series ring. And to give you some comparison of how young that is, the youngest guy at Rockies camp is Chris Olivares at 20. Then you got Ryan Valade at 22, Elahiris Montero at 22, Colton Welker Jameson Hanna and Ryan Ralston at 23. So this kid is really having some interesting experience right there on the job down in Fort Myers with the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I love it when teams do that. We've talked about how the Rockies have been sometimes overly cautious with their young players over the years.
Too cautious.
Sometimes, oddly enough, there are a handful of guys they've just rushed to the big leagues. As we're talking spring training, I think about years ago, my guy Eddie Butler, who
that's the last guy. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're not going to see it for a while.
That's right. They had done it right before that with Juan Nicasio. There were a few other guys. They jumped straight from Double-A at a young age. And yeah, as we know, this organization tends to get gun shy, right? You do a couple of things that don't work out, and then you go, well, we're never doing that again. And it's it's hard to say. I don't think that I do think that they ruined Eddie Butler by jumping him too soon. I think they did the wrong thing for him. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong thing for everybody. But I've somewhere got, maybe as we're talking here, I can find the picture that I had as my backup on my Facebook forever, me standing between John Gray and Eddie Butler, and him throwing his leg up on me, which was like, Eddie, maybe don't do that. you might.
Yeah, it's strange that those
fall down.
It's strange that those two guys were going to be these titans of the future, and one of them, to a degree, was, and yet in a year from now, then both might be gone. Well, we know one of them's gone, but they both might not be around in Colorado, unfortunately, right? Again, more young players. Jared Kelnick, a guy that we talked about, unfortunately, not for great reasons, not his fault, but when we got through the whole Kevin Mather discussion, again, go back and listen to that 2 Tuesdays ago, where we talked about the comments that the Seattle Mariners team president made, where he was on a Rotary club meeting on a Zoom and just kind of went off and, hey, tell me about this player. He's exciting. Sure, let me just kind of say some, racial things and kind of put down this guy and say something negative and really not focus on the positivity. And so Jared Kelnick was one of those guys who was offered a major league contract, and because he turned it down, he was betting on himself and say, I can make a lot of money in arbitration, and maybe I will stick around, but you know what? Until I play in the majors, you're going to try to lowball me, so I'm going to decline. And because of that, Seattle said, okay, we're not going to put you in the majors then. Yeah. And that's going to be a story that we'll see what happens going forward, but already we've got video of this guy, one of the first days of spring training, hitting bombs despite not having played very much above Single-A. And you're not going to be able to track the ball in this video, but you can the bat, and you're also going to hear somebody off in the distance shout something that we can actually air, but it's interesting. Well, let's take a peek.
Oh my goodness! Did you guys had this issue before? Because it only happens on TDSP.
Oh no! Oh, that's right.
Where the video just doesn't like to play. Here, let me pull it up a different way. Sorry about that, guys.
So it's on a backfield, and funny enough, the guy who captured this video, Daniel Kramer, is a guy that we had right here in Colorado. It was Thomas Harding's sidekick on MLB.com. He kind of farmed out to Seattle. There it is.
Woo!
And you can barely hear it off in the distance. Somebody says, that'll play.
That'll play.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anytime you can just hit the ball over the fence like that. Yeah. And so this kid was acquired as a teenager. He had just been drafted by the Mets because, the Mets are going to Mets, and was traded in that Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz deal. And almost immediately at the time, it was a trade that was kind of, in a way lauded and say, all right, I guess Mets, you're trying to contend. You probably shouldn't just yet. It was one of the worst things Brodie Van Wagenen did during his brief 2-year tenure with the Mets. But it was more about, this might be okay for the Mets in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to be way better for Seattle. And we're already seeing it. And this guy's got this buzz all about him. The fourth best prospect in all of Major League Baseball, and he's yet to even make his Major League debut. That's what you can do when you trade away veteran players and you kind of mortgage the present for a better tomorrow. So we're going to keep our eye on this kid. He's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Check this out real quick, just because I brought it up. First of all, apparently at some point we took all of the hair off of my face and put it onto John Gray's face and head.
Pretty much
what has happened since this time.
He looks like our guy Justin Michael a little bit there on the left.
Yeah, right. Totally. I don't know why I can't stand up straight. It was before I was doing the yoga.
You clearly have a tummy ache. We see the hand on the tummy.
Clearly, that free shirt that I got from Grand Junction.
Win, lose, rain,
shine.
Hat?
I can't remember.
I don't. Could be shine. Could be shine.
I think it's shine. Yeah.
Although if it's too much rain, actually they don't even play at all. But
no,
that wouldn't look good on a T-shirt. Maybe that's what was on the back.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what was on the back. Manny Machado, finished third in MVP last year. Got some help there in the lineup. He might be even better now going forward, as this young man had LASIK eye surgery. That's kind of scary to think. He was playing last year. I don't know how much of a disadvantage he had, but the dude's now got super power vision eyeballs. That's not good for the rest of the NL
Yeah,
West.
I'm very curious about this one.
Right.
As somebody who's often operating, by the way, under very poor vision out of one eye, that I should be wearing glasses and contacts for, and I oftentimes don't. The other eye has compensated, and I've gone back in for eye doctor appointments, and they're like, well, I don't know how you exist with your left eye at all, but this right eye is doing absolutely it's like near superhuman stuff. Like, basically, it's like, I wonder about that. And like, I've thought about the LASIK thing. So I'll use this as another test. If Machado goes off, maybe I go forward and get the LASIK. I don't know.
Okay. Well, Drew, I already I coaxed you into being a hat guy. You weren't sure about the hat.
That's right.
You look great in hats. You look great.
That and me going bald really
coincided.
Deal. Yeah.
Well, Drew, I'm going to try to not talk you into.
I don't want to look at my own head anymore.
You look great in the hat. I didn't steer you wrong. I'm not going to steer you wrong here either. When I tell you, you should go with an eye patch. Let's steer into this thing.
Okay.
Let's steer into it. I mean, you might be able to hawk that eyeball and maybe get a couple bucks. I don't know. You donate it. You're a nice guy like that, but go eye patch, my man.
So, okay. I don't want to take up too much time. I know we got a few other notes to get to, but I actually, it's like a weird just a weakness in the left eye. It's not quite a lazy eye, but it can almost get there. Otherwise, obviously, you'd be able to tell, right? And when I was a kid, we did exactly that. When I was young, we would patch it up, except for instead of it looking cool, instead of my parents being super rad parents, sorry, Mom, I know I love you and I love you forever and ever and ever, but they put a freaking Band-Aid over my eye like this. There were pictures, and I wouldn't even take it off for school pictures. I will find this embarrassing crap that I lived through for most of elementary school and share it with all of you on one of these at some point, because there are pictures. I don't think they're digitized yet. I'll have my mom send them to me. I'll get them on Facebook. And there are pictures of me wearing just a giant Band-Aid over my right eye to make my left eye work harder. So
you gotta go back to it, man. Go back to your roots, dude.
Bring it. I'm ready to go.
You got to go back to your roots. Well, while we're on the topic of the San Diego Padres, I found this amazing tweet. Now, we all know Fernando Tatis just recently signed a 4,000 year. He signed the Patrick Mahomes type contract, 14 years, $340 million. Drew and everyone else, this is what Fernando Tatis looked like 5 years ago. 5.
What?
Folks, 5 years ago.
That is a child.
He's a baby.
That is a child in middle school.
In his baseball bag, he's got a bat, a mitt, batting gloves, a pacifier.
One batting glove.
A ring pop.
Yeah. And a Game Boy Color.
Pretty much. This kid is the face of baseball. This hairless face from 5 years ago is now the facial hair faced. All right. Well, if we're talking about young guys, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Michaela talked about this last week. He trimmed down. She's all in. She's buying the futures on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Trimmed down 42 pounds since last July. Came to camp. Summer camp, a little bit hefty, but he's looking good now. He's looking good. He was honest. He said, yeah, for the last couple of years, they knew I was coming here out of shape. I didn't prepare myself very well. He's prepared himself very well. So we know how good he's been with his natural abilities. Now we're going to see exactly how good he is at the best of his game. Drop in that weight.
Yeah. You love seeing that. That's a lot. Like that's a big amount. The only thing you worry about, is just that's a different body. You got to get used to being in a different body. Do you remember when Prince Fielder went vegan or straight? Yeah. Like that was a thing. And he admitted later, like maybe a little bit too extreme of a change for the body. But I mean, if he's really just, look at this guy's
he's still a big dude, right?
That's the thing.
He's still a big guy.
Is like, I almost wonder, like, now if he put on 20 pounds during the pandemic in the winter and Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then he did 40 off, so he's really down 20, then probably, because you're right, like he's still a big guy. You don't want to lose that. Thomas Harding's running theory, right? Look, if you want to hit home runs, you got to have a big old butt. Prove him wrong. You prove Thomas Harding wrong.
I'm looking at a big butt right now. Lost 42 pounds, still seeing a big butt.
That's why you have to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be here with us for the YouTube show on Wednesdays, the DFA show with Ali producing, so you can get a look at this. Because I was worried for a minute that Vlad Guerrero Jr. wasn't going to look like a hoss anymore, wasn't going to have a big old butt. Look at this. Is this NSFW? Are we allowed to show this?
He's looking great. So, yeah, we know he's got the natural ability and was able to play like that. And now he's getting that body, and he's doing it early. We saw, how good, Nolan was able to be in 2019 after he dropped some unnecessary weight for that longevity. And maybe it didn't necessarily translate to, a better overall season statistically, but what's it going to do for his career going forward, right? Like, that's what it's about. It's about the future more so than just, I'm immediately going to be better. And so Vlad is going to be better, and he's going to be playing some first base this year, not so much third base. Blue Jays made some, big signings this offseason.
Save his legs a little.
Yeah, but Bo Bichette's at shortstop, so he's locked in. So they signed a shortstop and Marcus Semien to a 1-year deal. He's moving over to second base. Kevin Biggio is going from second base to third base. So now Vladdy's going to be over there at first, and I think it's
team, dude.
And I think it's going to light a fire under him of saying, I don't want to be a first baseman. I want to go back to third base. And so, you know what? I'm going to start getting myself in shape now and make the case for it. So in 2022, it's Bichette at short, Biggio goes back to second base, and Vladdy Jr. is the third baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays.
I like that. Looks good. That's my AL team now. Sorry, Mom and Royals and stuff. Figure your stuff out, and we'll talk. But for right now,
if we're talking power hitting third baseman, look at your futures for Eugenio Suarez. Right now, he's plus 2,200, aka 2,200, on leading MLB in home runs, because he said he's going to hit 50 this year. Now, he hit 49 in 2019, was only 4 behind Pete Alonso, who came out of nowhere there, the big rookie, the polar bear. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. That was interesting story. Again, if we're talking about making some money down the road, invest in Eugenio Suarez futures.
100%. That's my dude. All right. I can share this factoid now with everybody now that it's been a little while. We've all gained some separation, but in MLB The Show, when I play as the all-time legendary Rockies with everyone available to me, for whatever reason, I can't figure out Nolan Arenado's swing. I've never been able to hit with him. I just can't. DJ LeMahieu is another guy. I can't hit with him. I don't care what the stats are. The swing doesn't make sense to me. So I don't have Nolan as my third baseman. My team is like 90% Rockies. And it's funny that it's not Nolan at third. And who is it? It's Eugenio Suarez. The guy's bat is ridiculous. I get his swing. He's got better defense than most people realize, and the power is for real. I love that kid. He's probably not a kid anymore. What is he, 26, 27 now? He's getting into that middle of his physical prime.
Maybe a tick older, but he's still young. I mean,
28, 29 at the most, right? He's
he's legit.
Suarez, man.
Shin-Soo Choo.
They don't have Vinny, Wild the Innocent. Vinny Castilla's not in MLB The Show. Hashtag put Vinny in MLB The Show.
Shin-Soo Choo might be. And why is that important? because he's in the KBO, not back in the KBO. He's never been in the Korean Baseball Organization, but he's over there now. He's done it in America. And I bring that up not because he's with my NC Dinos. Unfortunately, no, he's not.
Yeah. Oh.
He's with the SK Wyverns.
Oh.
Allie, jump in here real quick. The mascot for this team, they're called the Wyverns. A Wyvern is?
I don't know.
Let's build up to it.
I had high
the
hopes.
NC Dinos. What's their mascot? The NC Dinos.
Dinosaurs?
It's a dinosaur. So the SK Wyverns, a Wyvern is?
A dinosaur as well? I don't know.
Kind of. Honestly, I don't. I still kind of don't know what a Wyvern is, but this is up Drew's alley, right?
I'm going to, yes, that's right. I'm going to ascribe some homework to all of you. You're going to have to read a little bit of Lord of the Rings, maybe play an old Final Fantasy game or
Game of Thrones.
No, they just call them dragons. They don't try to confuse people. A wyvern is basically another word for a dragon. But a particular kind. It's more of a snaky type of dragon. See, Nighthawk knew. Yeah, see, I know Nighthawk knows what's up. I'm sure she's seen plenty of things with wyverns.
We know clearly.
Wyvern.
Clearly, Michaela would have known that one. That's a gimme. All right, so Shin-Soo Choo, here's why I bring this up. So he's going over to KBO, and it's because they held a special one-time only draft in 2007, all the KBO teams. They did a draft and said, hey, look, there's a lot of South Korean ball players over in America right now playing. Let's kind of just draft their rights. And NBA fans know this. You're drafting players over in Europe, and they might not come over right away. You got to wait a season or two. Sometimes they never come over. Sometimes you trade their rights even though no one wants the rights. It's just kind of a bargaining chip. So they did this in 2007, back when Shin-Soo Choo was already playing in Major League Baseball. And here we are 14 years later. That pick is finally coming to fruition. He's coming home and he's going back on the Wyverns, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's hilarious because you had no way of knowing, but Shin-Soo Choo was another MLB The Show connection for me back in the day, because back when he was a Cub and the Rockies offense 2014, 2015 could have used an extra outfielder. I used to get him all the time too. He was one of those guys, a great contact bat, but more pop than you realize, and a really good fielder. One of those guys that did all the things well, but none of the things elite. And I've always had a soft spot in my heart for those types of players. So good for him.
Kasuke Fukudome.
Oh, damn it. Shin-Soo Choo was with the Rangers. Not the I'm sorry.
It was a fun. That was a new round of the who am I thinking of game.
Who am I
I'm
thinking
going to tell you we're talking about.
I did go
this
with
guy.
Kasuke. Actually, I have acquired both of those players. But Shin-Soo Choo is a little bit better version of the same thing. That's right.
Tim Tebow. Come
Rangers.
on. Denver story. We're talking about Colorado guys.
Timothy Richard. I know you're a middle name guy, and I know that one. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
You got me on that one. TR Tebow, he's done. He's retired from Major League Baseball. Yep.
Pour out a single. Well, no.
No, he's married now. There he is, a member of the Port St. Lucie Mets, or just St. Lucie Mets. He
look at those forearms, though.
Oh yeah, I mean he was decent. Honestly, he wasn't as good as Michael Jordan. He started his career at a similar age 29 in 2007. He was a Double-A All-Star in 2018, mainly because more people are going to go to the game, right?
Yeah.
Played 77 games in Triple-A. Was really bad. Batted 163, on base percentage of 240, slugging of 255. On base 240, slugging 255.
That's
bad. Really bad. Finishes with 18 homers, 107 RBI. But here's the thing.
18 home runs as a professional baseball player
pretty good.
Is nothing to sneeze at.
No. Here's the thing is he's retired from the Mets. I just don't know if he's officially retired from baseball.
Oh, we're keeping it alive.
Here's why. Yes, here's why. Do you know where Timothy Richard Tebow was born?
No.
He was born in the Philippines, which means very easily he can play for Team Philippines in the World Baseball Classic. Yes.
Give me all of this.
Yeah. So we're supposed to have the World Baseball Classic this year. And even like last year, they had already postponed it. They pushed it back. They haven't made any official announcements. I'm really excited for the next World Baseball Classic, even though We don't know when it is. It seems like it might be 2023. In Philippines, they have to qualify now. There's all kinds of qualifiers for countries all over the world. It's kind of cool. It's a big deal if you're from those areas, right? Or if you have family from there. Those qualifiers. Of course, in America, we don't really care until they're playing in American ballparks or over in Japan, and we kind of know who's in the field. But he still could play. There's a qualifier on March 20th. So set your alerts. Maybe later on this month, you could see Tim Tebow back in action representing the Philippines. How about that?
Tebow time yet again. People know this about me at this point. I think I'm so pro Tebow. I just and not
I knew you would like
a not in a I totally believe he could do it kind of way. Just in a let him try. I want to find out. Let's see what happens. I don't know.
He is kind of a national hero in the Philippines because I think he goes back every year and he spends like at least 3 weeks there, and because he does missionary work and stuff, so he speaks some of the Filipino language.
He also reminds us how incredibly difficult professional sports are.
Yeah,
it's a great reminder that it's tough out there.
All right, here's a story of a guy that it's gonna annoy you about how hard baseball is, and a guy who maybe is taking it for granted. And I don't want to come down hard on this guy, but
I'll do it.
This annoyed me a little bit, Drew. Hunter Bishop, big prospect for the San Francisco Giants. He went to ASU. Actually got to see him play coincidentally once when I was out there. He released a musical single on SoundCloud. Dude kind of wants to be a musician, which is fine. You can do both. But some of the quotes that I've heard about him are just like frustrating to hear about him, like kind of dream about being a musician at some point. And I'm like, no, you already have a dream job. How could you want that? Like maybe you should keep that to yourself. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, okay. So I'm going to have a very personal take with this, obviously. Right.
As being a professional athlete and musician. Okay, go ahead.
Totally. I'm exactly the same thing. I'm basically in the exact same situation. If you take both of these down to like 20 degrees lower, what was I doing right before I got this gig? I was trying to make a living as a musician. Not a very good one, but I was hanging in there. People, oddly enough, kept giving me money to do it, but not very much. And since I took over at then BSN, now DNVR, I've written maybe 3 songs. And I've got a catalog of like 35 and maybe 20 that I'm comfortable playing in front of people. But so, yeah, I do actually feel a little bit strange about. So for me, shifting my focus just to covering baseball full time, man, I still play music every day. Music is a huge part of my life. You don't let it go. I used to do this thing where I would say, oh, I used to play music. And Katie like beat that out of me. She was like, you still play music. You're still a musician. You're not an ex-musician just because you don't go up on stage anymore. I'm like, you know what? Fair enough. It's always a part of your heart. But I focus on this now. I do this 90% of the time, and I do that occasionally when a special occasion arises. So I would imagine that a professional ball player would have a similar relationship with like, I love it. I don't want to let it go, but you don't release a brand new single in spring training, dude.
No, it's just
you don't drop your new fire hit.
No, right? Yeah, he goes by Hunter Bishop, goes by Bish. I kind of dig the name. I dig it.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. And so this was a quote from his brother, who is also a baseball player, Braden Bishop, with the Mariners. He says, quote, I think in the back of the mind, he pictures himself being like a resident DJ at some Las Vegas club or something, and finishes with, at least he's working for something, I guess. He should be working towards being in the majors and making $75 million relatively easily by playing baseball. You're not going to make that as a musician, dude. You're not.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, maybe after your career, I'd be curious to see how much money Bernie Williams has made, because he kind of kept he's
a classical guitar player.
His, being a musician separate from, his being an athlete.
Bronson Arroyo earned the right to throw concerts right before games. Not where he pitched. So.
Yeah.
But Bronson Arroyo, legit, like, good singing voice. That guy's.
And has he made his back the same money he made on the diamond? Of course not.
Right, of course not.
I don't know if that's anybody
right.
has.
You do all that, and then you
Right.
earn the right to. I doubt he was throwing concerts when he was a prospect, right?
No, of course not. That's just it's lunacy. So Hunter Bishop
maybe if this doesn't work out for him, Hunter Bishop can go over and try out for the Colorado XOs.
Why not? I mean, he's doing everything else.
Yeah, everything else going on. And actually, they legitimately do have a lot of athletes out there in backgrounds from football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, soccer, track and field. All these people coming out to try out for the United States national team with elite talent to help them compete on the global stage and ultimately win the Rugby World Cup. There are few phrases in the world of sports more exciting than World Cup. And you've got the opportunity to root for a team located right here in Glendale, Colorado, Infinity Park, the home of Team USA, out there doing the thing. Check out the first couple of matches scheduled for April 3rd and April 10th. Mark your calendars. I'm going to be there watching them. Chat with me on Twitter. Also, Colton Strickler, a must follow if you're even semi-interested in rugby. And if you're not, get semi-interested in rugby. It's a whole lot of fun. Again, there's going to be so much pride right here at Infinity Park. Get in, check it out. Follow the DNVR Rugby podcast and Twitter feed. It's too much fun. You're going to enjoy yourself, especially, your Rockies this year is going to be rooting about individual players to get a little bit better, to do a little bit better. There's not going to be a lot of team success to root for. And I know a lot of you can't root for a different baseball team. So root for a rugby team. Make them your primary success team.
Different sport. There you go. That's a safe one. All right. We know spring training has been a little bit funky. It's a little bit funky, and so much so now to the point where you are able to remove a player from the game and put him back in it. That's insane. But you can do that. So this actually happened the other day. John Means, who we actually got to see at Coors Field a couple years ago when the Orioles came to town, but he has at like 40 pitches and got into a jam in the bottom of the first and was lifted and thought, oh, this is strange. I thought I was going to go 2 innings. Lo and behold, at the top of the next inning, they said, hey, go back out there and start the inning. And he's like, but you took me out.
But I'm out of the game.
I've been playing baseball like
my whole life.
And you can't do that. So I'm not going to do that. And his manager said, no, you got to do that. Get back in the game.
I would feel so weird.
Right?
Just surreal. Like, this can't happen.
We saw that in the first Rockies game where Zach Gallen had guys on base. And it was just like, nah, we're good. I don't want to face this guy. Yeah. Let's wipe him off. Again, that is what you can do when you have a good analytics department.
So Zach Gallen's spring training ERA is still 0.
Yes. Even though he never got to the jam and bases loaded. Yeah, he leaves runners on base like crazy, but
amazing.
That's lucky SOB. Did you see that Dom Smith? He got an interview on Instagram because this is apparently where you talk with legendary ball players.
This is what happens now.
Yeah. Talks with Barry Bonds, and the real thing of note in it is, he was asked about great players of his generation. Second name out of his mouth, Larry Kenneth Robert Walker.
Look, game recognized game. Great.
That was awesome when I saw that.
Yeah. Someone hit us up and mentioned that on Twitter as well. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, man, yeah. I wish we'd have known that years ago. It might have made some stuff easier, but right. It is one of those things, game recognized game. It's that simple. If somebody that good knows, then he knows.
Okay, Drew, if you had to raise some money for a charity, how many miles a day could you run or even walk? You got to do it every single day though. And be real. You don't want to do too many. So would you, even just one? Think about just one.
I can do hard. 2 a day. I can do 2 miles a day. Okay. I think, but that's only because I've been doing yoga lately and eating a little bit better. A year ago, my answer to that would have been 1. I can do 2, maybe 3. I started running with the dogs. They out. I'm good.
I like that. That's a good number. That's a fair number. Well, there's a coach with the Seattle Mariners to talk about guys who have a great job and yet they've got this other hobby. Well, it's a nice story because he is trying to raise money. But Carson Vital, a Mariners coach, is running 10 miles a day for the whole year, 3,650.
A day?
A day.
How long does that take?
It would probably be because
3 hours.
He's probably not doing it,
That's how long
on a sprint. He can probably do, at a relatively easy pace. He's doing 5 miles in an hour. He's probably doing more than that, but 2 hours, 2 hours in the morning, maybe even an hour and a half. Very doable.
Nope.
But every day, that's the key piece. And then if you go, you know what? I'm going to take a day off.
One time.
Yeah. What if you get a cold for 2 days? That means day 3, you're doing an ultra marathon. You're doing 30 miles. So big props to that guy.
Yeah.
He's trying to undo all the PR nightmare business for the Mariners.
It's one way.
1 mile at a time.
Run it out.
Forrest Gump style. There it is. There's his Forrest Gump challenge, so to speak. It's really impressive. Just he got back into the love of running and just trying to raise some money for great charity from the United Way and doing some big things. So you got to give him props for that, especially as a coach too.
Yeah, I always hated the coach who would make everybody else run while he sat on the back of the truck.
Not this guy. He's running ahead of you. He's lapping you around the diamond. All right, and finally, Drew, the best first anything you've ever had. Can you think of a time where it's like, hey, it's your first day or your first whatever, and you're like, I'm not this good, but wow, that's great. I'm feeling pretty darn fantastic.
Oh yeah. No.
I got one. If you think about it.
I'm terrible.
It wasn't my first date, but it was one of my first dates with my wife, where we went down to the old Jersey Shore boardwalk in Point Pleasant. I'm sure Allie's been to that one. It's a little bit nicer than Seaside. That's the one from the Jersey Shore. We went go on this date with my wife, and of course, it's that booth with the little plates, and you got to throw the baseball to crack the plate, and you got to do it all 3 times. Picked up the baseball. I think it was even a softball. 1, 2, 3. Broke it. And I was like, pick whatever one you want. And I walked away like I almost didn't care. I was like, yeah, you can get whatever one you want. Hands in my pocket, strutting away. That's the best first anything that I've had where I felt good. And I go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do better than that.
Yeah. Mine never felt that way, but it's a very similar story because I nailed my first date with Katie as well. I just didn't know that it was a first date at the time because she showed up at a concert at a show. Again, I'm not trying to plug the music thing. It's just what I did. You're also wearing a bandage over your right eye, and she was sitting to the right of you. the whole time you're like, when did you get here? I was playing a show at a small venue. It was my parents' anniversary, and I had met Katie once before, and she showed up alone. She sat in the front row. I thought that was super dope and cool. And we got to talking afterwards, and I just happened to share some of my favorite things that also happened to be some of her favorite things. One of those things where you just lock, and you're just like, oh, man, The Crow is one of my favorite movies of all time. She's like, are you joking with me? Have you been stalking me on Facebook? I'm like, no, that's just – I dig that movie. She's like, no, seriously. She has a crow tattoo now.
That was yes, I am stalking you, but I also happen to like The Crow, the movie. That's how I found you to stalk you.
So I guess, Patrick, this is a really bad way to humble brag to end this episode with us talking about how we nailed our first. We both ruined plenty of other dates. We promise.
Yes. I also got crapped on by a seagull at the same boardwalk on a different day. So these things all come around. Oh, Caleb Pendleton. This will be our final great spring training story. Caleb Pendleton is a name that I'm probably going to forget in a couple of weeks. Florida Atlantic University. In his first game, he did better than Fernando Tatis Jr.'s dad, Fernando Tatis Sr. He hit 2 grand slams in the same inning. In his first game ever in Division I.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
How about that for making a first impression?
You gotta, I mean, again, the odds, astronomical. that you could do that.
At least one
You're
in
never gonna
6, maybe no.
getting 8 RBI in a week is pretty dope, right? That's a good week to get 8 RBI in a game.
Is 45 minutes. In 45 minutes.
Right. But to do it in one inning is just like you might as well just put the bat down and be like, well, I'm never gonna top that.
Pretty much. And I don't think we're gonna top this.
We aren't.
Some good spring training stories around the game. There's still some more breaking out. Hopefully there's some more good Rockies stories like their comeback victory today. Games don't mean anything, but you know what? It means something to win, to feel like a winner.
That's right. So I know all you feel like winners for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We feel like winners for hanging out with you. And we really appreciate you following on YouTube specifically for these special shows. If you didn't today, you missed out on a whole lot of fun graphics and video, all the work that producer Ali is doing behind the scenes. Oftentimes it's Tech Boy Kale. He was out today, but Ali, the best in the biz, filling in. So we appreciate all that. You're missing all the hard work that those folks put in. If you don't subscribe to the YouTube and join us for these live chats and join the conversation, you got to get on that or you're behind the times. We appreciate you following on social media at Drew Creasman, at DNVR_Rockies, at Patrick D. Lyons, all that good stuff. Subscribing to the DNVR.com so you don't miss out on any of that written content. Plus, you get discounts on hats, shirts, masks, a bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar, and you get access to our private chat room in the Discord channel where we're always talking sports, but we're always talking non-sports too. We've all got a myriad of interests. We want to hear about yours and share ours with you. Come be a part of the family at the DNVR.com. Subscribe today. I promise you're not going to regret it. Thank you all for hanging out with us, continuing to be absolutely awesome out there. I promise you that we will continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons, producer Ali Monroy, and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.
Okay, hold on. The video things like to be annoying.
I forgot that the video
got the magic touch.
Give me 2 seconds, guys.
The unmagical touch.